What up, beautiful people? We are back. This is a spoiler for Loki episode 2. If you have not seen it, please go literally watch episode 2 and come back and literally watch my spoiler and spoiler free video of Loki episode 2. First of all, I really enjoyed it. I think what I really enjoyed about this episode was the fact that the way Mobius and Loki were butting heads, arguing, disagreeing, agreeing, and so forth. It kind of reminded Loki of how he must seem to Thor, which is quite interesting. So it's quite interesting to see Loki going through this particular scenario of actually finding out why he actually is what he's like when he's actually just annoying Thor and talking consistently. So that was a pretty cool element put basically into the show. What I really enjoyed about episode 2 was the fact that it came out on the 16th of the 6th, right? And the main Marvel universe is the 616 universe. And in this particular episode, we pretty much saw the birth of the multiverse. Pretty much the birth of multiple multiverses being birthed through literally through basically the plan that this Lady Loki, which she isn't really Lady Loki, because it's quite interesting, because in the comics Lady Loki is actually Loki. It is Loki. So it's quite interesting how they have two Lokis, and I don't think she is Loki, because when he says when he calls her Loki, I believe in the episode, she's like, "Don't call me that." So I'm assuming people have been speculating that this particular individual who people think is Loki is actually Enchantress, which is quite interesting, because when you look at Enchantress, the way that she looks, the blonde hair, the horns, really identical to this particular person that we think is Lady Loki, which really isn't Lady Loki from what I can see. It'll be way too predictive. I think Marvel are going to do a very crazy spin on us, just like they did with Wanda and Vision, when we found out pretty much that Agatha was pretty much the main person that was pulling the strings in the episode. But overall, it was a very cool comedic episode. I really love this episode. It really surprised me, because I initially thought this episode was going to be Loki going through different missions, catching criminals basically, and also trying to help the TVA apprehend this Loki variant. So that's what I initially thought it was going to be, but it turned out completely different. It was really twisted and so forth in regards to the end, where, let's call her Lady Loki for now, says to Loki, "It's not about you." And then the scene basically cuts, and we see the birth of the so-called multiverse or multiverses, and it cuts back to Loki, and Lady Loki goes through the portal, and then Loki's like, "Do I go? Don't I go?" And then he sees Mobius running towards him, and then he jumps through. And so the question is, what did she say to him in that particular situation, in that particular scene that we never saw? What did she say to him for him to actually follow her, and not him, and for him for Loki to not actually apprehend her or fight her and so forth? So that was a very interesting moment, which I was like, I wonder what happened here. So it's really going to be quite interesting to see how things kick off now in episode 3, because everyone thought it was going to be quite simply Loki is pretty much going to, of course, work for the TVA, use them and abuse them, and then do what he wants to do while catching, of course, this variant Loki, and then doing what he wants to do with him or potentially her. So I thought that was pretty ingenious and pretty cool. But the thing of Loki, he's the god of mischief. You don't know what he's about or what he's going to do next, which makes the show even more interesting. So what we basically know what makes Loki tick. The thing is, though, it's like, what's Loki's plan? What is he looking to do? Now the fact that we're pretty much seeing the birth of the multiverse, and when I say the birth of the multiverse, right, it's quite interesting, because this episode of Loki 2, it seems that the multiverse is born, right? But what's interesting is in the first Doctor Strange movie, the ancient one, that mentions the multiverse. So the multiverse is already there. So could it be that this particular Loki episode is actually set before that first Doctor Strange movie, which means the multiverse is already here. It's kind of interesting, right, when you think of it. But when you go into time travel, it can just really mess with your mind. But because Doctor Strange mentioned the multiverse, Spider-Man Away from Home mentioned the multiverse, and now we're seeing pretty much the multiverse in regards to time. And it's kind of messy to think about in that instance. Like, what is it really all about? Because initially, it looks like the multiverse is being born or reborn, or potentially all of the multiverses were in that particular time stream that we saw, but now they pretty much are branching out somehow, um, which is kind of interesting if that's pretty much the idea and the plan. And of course, what is this Lady Loki? Let's call her Lady Loki for now. What's basically her plans? Like, why is she doing what she's doing? And these three lizards, the timekeepers, I don't buy any of what they're trying to say and do. For all we know, they're trying to kill this particular Lady Loki for a particular reason, because they may be doing some mischievous craziness behind closed door, which is why Loki is very suspicious, literally, about all three of them, which really, I'm very suspicious. I don't trust any of them. So it's quite interesting when you think of that particular scenario, of the multiverse being literally hatched, being reborn, or for all we know, this particular. Imagine this particular Loki series predates the MCU being the catalyst that gave birth to the MCU. Quite interesting, right? If that really happened, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there, but we did see the birth. We saw that time stream splitting up, which means multiple verses might, have been brought to life, which can pretty much set up, of course, Secret Wars, can set up the Spider-Verse, and of course, it can literally set up Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But overall, it was a very well put together episode. I really enjoyed it. It was fun, comedic, and just, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed just the comedy of seeing Loki, and just, I don't know. I just really digged it. Like, Loki is a multi-dimensional character. You can do so much of him. So it's quite interesting to see what's going to transpire in the future of this Loki, of course, series. So many questions, so many answers when you think of, that particular scene where the time stream literally splits and all these multiverses or Earths or universes are getting born or reborn. It looks like it could be also what the timekeepers did, and they what the war they had to make that particular time stream one, like pretty much one stream of time. It could be going back to how it was before they intervened and basically concreted that particular multiverse into literally one stream. But it is quite interesting when you think of the concept of time in this particular episode. But overall, we're going to find out what happens in next week's episode. What was really dope and emotional when Loki found out that Asgard pretty much blew up. And, it was quite interesting. He was saying, take me back to Asgard. So what did he do? I'm assuming he wanted to go back to Asgard and pretty much save Asgard. But if he goes back to Asgard, he would have bumped into his previous self and Thor and so forth. It would have been quite interesting to see that if that basically would have happened. But from seeing some of the promos, I've seen like the promo of episode 3, we see like I think snippets of Asgard and so forth. So who knows what's going to happen, because now he can jump through time with this so-called Lady Loki. He can go anywhere and everywhere and manipulate time, multiverse, and pretty much do what he wants to do. Imagine he goes back and tries to kill Thanos for killing him. Or he basically goes back to set things straight and he doesn't actually kill Phil Coulson. Which means initially the Avengers would never have assembled. Which means Ultron would have never been literally born. It's just a complete what-if scenario if Loki was to go back and actually change the things that he did in Avengers Assemble, which was the catalyst for the whole multiverse, for the Infinity Stones and so forth. The fact that he's taken the Tesseract basically from that particular timeline of well, at the end of Avengers or in Avengers Endgame, it means that Thanos never got the last Infinity Stone, and basically that the Vision was initially never born. So quite interesting to see if he would, if we see any of this, if we see any of these what if scenarios, basically, in the next couple of episodes of Loki. But I like the fact it's gone from your basic time travel, save the world, stop time and reality from being, messed up and so forth, to something completely different. The fact that you have Loki and this lady Loki together, there must be something brewing between them, and Loki might be seeing something that catches his eye and says, I can work with this particular individual. But who knows? At the end of the day, they both can't be trusted. Loki is Loki, and this particular lady Loki that no one really knows who she is, because I think she's Enchantress, that she isn't basically a lady Loki. Yeah, she can't be trusted either. But what's motivating her? What's her particular story? Why is she doing the things that she's actually doing? And that's one thing that what's one thing that I pretty much want to find out and really, really see. But overall, that's what I pretty much wanted to really, really speak about in regards to this episode. I really enjoyed it. It was twisted. It was cool. It was very emotional. Seeing, of course, Loki seeing that Asgard literally died, and then literally coming toe to toe with his particular double, being Lady Loki, who I keep saying isn't Lady Loki. But overall, the show keeps getting better and better and twisted. And because it's Loki, you never know what you're going to expect next to this character, because he's just an amazing, multi-dimensional character that no one knows what he's going to do next. And it's initially like, what is he going to do? Is he going to save the universe because he wants to? Or is he going to save the universe because he basically wants to mess with universe? Or is he going to be like, you know what? I'm going to just I'm going to go through time and do what I want to do and set things straight and actually just take out these timekeepers. Overall, people, like, so many questions, so many answers. I can be here all day speaking about my theories of what's really popping off, but overall, it's a series that we can't really predict what's going to happen until we actually watch it. It kind of reminds me of Wanda and Vision. I thought Wanda and Vision was insane and unpredictable, and it was. But with Loki, it's you can't predict what he's gonna do next. At least with Wanda and Vision, you're like, you kind of understand Wanda and Vision's persona and character and what they've gone through. But Loki, regardless where you put him, he's the god of mischief, and he pretty much does what he wants to do. So interesting. But I will say, seeing his life being snuffed away by Thanos, seeing what he went through, the trauma, the death that he saw when he saw his life flash, but when you saw his life just flash beyond him, it really kind of, I think for me, it kind of molded and changed his character and his dynamic. And what's quite interesting is, can you imagine if this particular lady Loki could be actually Loki pretending to be Lady Loki for a particular reason? Imagine it's the Loki from Avengers Endgame, from Infinity War, and he didn't really die. Who knows? Because let's just say it like this: if it isn't basically Enchantress or somebody else, and it is a Loki, then what? Then that would be insane. That would be insane. Like, and he says he shape shifts back to Loki, and he goes to the current Loki. He says, "This is exactly how things turn out, and this is how you become me." I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there, but who knows? It's time travel. It's multiverses. It's very, very interesting to see how things will manifest in this episode. But I really, really digged it. I get excited when I watch it still. Just seeing seeing Loki on screen just makes me happy. I'm like, yes. So overall, peeps, that's my thoughts on Loki episode 2. My question to you beautiful people is, what did you think of Loki episode 2? What are, of course, your theories, fan theories, and what do you think is really happening? What's really gonna happen? Is this the birth of the multiverse? Is this the birth of the multiverse? Is it the birth of Secret Wars? Who knows? We're gonna find out next week on next week, episode 3 of Loki. With that being said, click like, share, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll catch all of you literally next week with a spoiler and spoiler free in one video of Loki episode 3. Peace out. And of course, click like, share, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff.